You're listening to Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum. Thanks for joining me every week. Those of you who do, I appreciate it. If you're new and you're here for Frankie Muniz, I certainly appreciate you for coming here and listening. And if you like the podcast and you don't know who the hell I am and you like it, maybe write a review and start listening and become a listener of Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum. I appreciate it. We try to give good interviews and make them real and not actory crap. So if you like it, hang around. We got a great one today. I'll say a few things beforehand. I'll get into Frankie Muniz in just a second, but a few things. If you want to go to my Instagram at the Michael Rosenbaum and go to my link tree, there's cameos, there's the Smallville cruise. Get tickets for the Smallville cruise. Do excursions with me or Tom or some of the cast members. Lots of stuff going on there. A lot of other cons, Smallville Con we're having next year again, plus a lot of other cons that are, I'm sure, listed on my link tree. Also, my Rosie's Puppy Fresh Breath is out. So if your dog's breath smells like shit and you want something to help, I use this every day. It's Rosie's Puppy Fresh Breath. I created this, and it's got a picture of me and my dogs on there. And you just do a cap full in your dog's water, odorless, tasteless, and their breath is better. And last, but certainly not least, is the fart book that's out on Amazon. It just came out, so I know I have to come out and promote it. Sorry if you hate hearing about it, because I love it, and it's fun, and it's a great tabletop or a Christmas gift or white elephant or good for kids, good for adults. It's got great sounds. They're all real. They're my farts, and the illustrations are beautiful, and I think you're going to get a kick out of it. They're only $20 on Amazon, and hopefully you'll support and get a book if you want. And last but not least, thanks all the patrons for joining and being a member of Patreon, which is pretty much to help. You know, it's like I talk about it, Ryan. It's like a streaming service. Like most people are forced to pay a streaming service. Well, Inside of You, Michael Rosenbaum is free. Mm-hmm. So if you want to give back to the show a little something and support it, go to Patreon, patreon.com/inside of you. Support the podcast, give back. There's tiers. There's, I give gifts away, and you get your name read off at the top tiers. There's lots of stuff, and it's a really close-knit family. And I thank all the patrons. Go to patreon.com/inside of you. And lastly, stageit.com if you want to see the band we're playing. We're getting geared up for the album. We're trying to pay for the album. So December 14th, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, go to stageit.com or go to sunspin.com. Get tickets. They're practically free, and you can support the band, and we look at all your messages and read them and laugh and play music and all that stuff. So it's a lot of fun. And the Inside of You online store for tons of scripts and holiday ideas, Lexmas scripts, ship keys autographed, tumblers, and much more. Frankie Muniz, let's get into that.
Yeah.
He was awesome.
Yeah.
He was an awesome guest. I really had fun with him, and he was really open and sweet. But it's crazy because we talked about, how he races cars and how dangerous it is. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't but a few days ago, mm-hmm. There was an accident on the track, and he was kind of limping off. And do you have some information on that?
Oh, I mean, I was just Googling because you'd mentioned it before we got on. Mike. It says he's okay.
Yeah, he's okay.
He's okay. He limped.
Limped off, right? But we were just talking about that. So this interview was done a week before that happened. So
he's okay. He's okay.
Thank God he's okay. But we talked about the risk and all that stuff, and then it happens, and then this interview comes out. But it was I was a little nervous when I saw the headline. I was like, no, please God, no. And he's fine. So anybody that says NASCAR racers aren't risking their lives or doing a job that's tough or athletic, or they have no idea. When he talks about having to be in that car for 3 hours, going at speeds of 200 miles an hour, and I'm like, it's exhausting. Your muscles, mm-hmm. your brain, you have to be hyper focused. It's a lot. This interview was great. Let's get inside of Frankie Muniz.
It's my point of view. You're listening to Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum. Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum was not recorded in front of a live studio audience.
Frankie, don't you lose that number. Because I can anyway.
I'm sorry it took like 3 years of us talking about this to finally make it happen. I'm so sorry.
I don't care. Dude, I know you're busy. Look, when anybody has a kid, then I just go, I get it. I don't even think about it. You know, it's when people don't have kids and they're like not even working, but you're constantly doing stuff. So I didn't think twice about it.
The last 2 years for me, honestly, have been so insane in a good way, but just like every time I'm like, oh, I'm going to have, as soon as I get this done or I get back, I'm going to have time to be normal and plan things, and it doesn't happen.
You look good. I'm not saying that. I swear to God, I was just like, I was taken aback here because like you look really,
touch up my appearance feature on Zoom.
Do you work out a lot, don't you?
I do. For the racing, it's part of one of the things that like I have to do every day, like in my mind, like it's as my job. I say I have to dedicate X amount of time to training. And, you know, the sad part is like, I feel like I'm in really good shape, but I still don't ever feel like I look like I'm in good shape. You know, I got like the kind of little bit of dad bod going on.
No, I was like looking at you, your shoulders, you got some arms, your face is chiseled. Look at you. You're all piggity pumped. Pump up the jams.
I'm trying to stay in shape for the racing, but it's hard. You know, I'm 38, 39, you know, I'm not old, but you know, like it definitely, I feel it. It's harder to have the motivation every day to want to do it, but I have to.
See, this is what most of America thinks, or most of the world thinks, is like racing's got to be a mental sport. Like you don't have to work out to be a driver. Is that completely false?
Completely false. So, I mean, it's both, right? It's definitely mental, like, you know, you're making thousands of decisions in milliseconds, you know what I mean? And your life literally depends on those decisions at times. So there's that, but I'll put it this way. I wear a heart rate monitor in the race car, and my heart rate won't drop below 175 beats per minute. And the races are 2 to 3 hours long, and it's 160 degrees inside the car, right? So physically, if you compare it to any other sport, there's really no timeouts. There's no break. Maybe you get 12 seconds in a pit stop, but even then, like that's high pressure of trying to get into your pit stall, not run over your crew members, you know, get out, not hit cars coming out.
Wow.
So that even elevates your heart rate even more. So I think a lot of people think, oh, you're just driving. Driving's not physical. But if you've ever even gone go-karting, if you've ever gone to like an indoor go-kart,
your body feels like you hit a train.
And you are doing 10 laps in a little cart that weighs a few hundred pounds. Imagine having to hold a 3,000-pound race car at 200 miles an hour, and you know you're competing at the highest level there is. So physically, it's extremely demanding. But you know nobody will believe you unless they actually try it and they do it. So
you're going 200 miles an hour?
Yeah, it's not that fast.
I thought maybe you averaged like 120 or something.
Oh no, 120 is like behind the pace car, basically. No, you know, I don't know. You know, like Daytona, Talladega, Michigan. We just raced this weekend at Homestead, Miami. That's a little bit of a slower track. I think we hit like 180, 185, but the corners are a little bit slower because there's very low grip.
For how many hours?
But, yeah, you're going fast. 2-3 hours. It depends.
2-3 hours of just going straight full, like 200 miles an hour, intense. Watching, make sure you don't hit another car, staying on track, trying to make moves, trying to get up there to the top. What do you call it? Top of the
leaderboard? Yeah.
What is it called? Like the top of the heat or top of the heat? What do they call the?
In NASCAR, we have stages. So you want to win the stage. So there's stage 1, stage 2, and then the final stage. And there's points awarded for like people who are in the top 10 of the stages. So it matters, right? They make where you are during the whole race matter as far as points and as far as the championship's concerned, you know.
All right, we're going to get into all this racing stuff because there's a lot of like announcements that you've done this year, and I want to talk a lot about that. But obviously, I want to talk about like, you know, on this podcast we talk mental health, we talk, you know, facing adversity and all that stuff, and you know, people think that everybody, you know, in Hollywood is, you know, everything's perfect, and you know, we're crybabies, and you know, we make a lot of money and we do all this, but like we're human beings, and we do face adversity, and we, you know, there are tough times, and it's nice to hear from people about their troubling times and what they did to get out of it.
Yeah.
I mean, if you take me back to like when you were a kid, were your parents, were they together?
Yeah. My parents were together until I was about, I think 11 or 12. They got divorced. I had started acting when I was 8 or so, but by the time that 11 or 12 came along, my mom and we were living in North Carolina at the time. That's where I started acting. And we went up for like pilot season, or maybe actually we went up for the summer before school was supposed to start, just to try going to New York City, because we'd kind of maybe outgrown what we could do in North Carolina, like as an actor. And so that kind of separated my family for the first time. My sister stayed with my dad in North Carolina. I went with my mom up to New York, and we were going on, at the time, like 5 or 6 auditions a day, and kind of doing the grind in a sense. And I started booking things and never went back to North Carolina. And
Wow.
I remember, like, we tried to get my sister to move up, but she was going to school at the time, didn't really want to come. And I remember my mom and dad always fought, like growing up, like that's kind of my memories of it. And I don't mean it I had a great childhood.
But that's like, it's funny you say that, because a lot of times kids will remember the traumatic things or the things that weren't perfect. And I sometimes I do that too. I sit back and go, there had to be good times. Let's really think about this here.
Yeah.
And
we had a lot of good times. I remember I'd go to bed and I would hear them yelling in the living room. You know what I mean? And so I remember when my mom told me that they were getting divorced, that I encouraged it. I don't know, like, a lot of kids, I think I hear stories where they're like, oh, that was really tough when my parents told me they were getting a divorce. And I thought it was the best thing that could happen for her, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I don't know. So the divorce didn't necessarily affect me, like maybe it does a lot of people. But yeah, so we were, I thought, a tight family until we weren't at all. And, super separated. Like my sister was, like I said, in North Carolina with my dad. I was with my mom. We finally convinced my sister to move to New York with us, to New Jersey. That's where I was originally from anyway. So like
born, yeah.
My grandparents and everybody were from. And she finally moved up, and it wasn't like a month later that I got Malcolm, and we moved to LA. And she's like, you're not moving. So she stayed with my grandparents in New Jersey. We moved to LA. And so it's kind of this really weird dynamic to look at now. Like it actually makes me a little bit sad, to realize that like my mom and I, or me following my dream and the things that I got to do, like affected every single member of my family. Right.
And you don't think about that when you're younger.
No, at all. Like, did it cause a divorce? Potentially. Did, like, my sister, like, I think of the life that she had. We've talked about a lot now that we're older. And, I guess when it's happening, you don't realize the sacrifice that every single person is making for you. Yeah. Even my grandparents, 70, 80 years old, whatever, were then raising my sister. You know what I mean? Like,
that's crazy.
And the fact that they were so willing to help out and do whatever they could do to kind of, for us to be available to go where I needed to go, to do what I needed to do. It's a crazy thought, but it's a realization I actually had this year. It was the first time I thought about the past enough to think about the sacrifice that people made. And it made me really sad. Like, happy that I have people in my life like that, but like, it's just a crazy thought that without that support, probably none of that happens. You know what I mean? And it's a wild, wild thought.
Yeah. You were talking about how when your parents were going to get divorced, you're like, yeah, I encourage this. It's so funny because when my parents finally got divorced, I remember going, good. It didn't affect me at all. It affected me when I realized my mom couldn't take care of herself, and then I had to support her for the rest of my, still in a lot of ways. And so, that was really tough mentally on me, where she'd call up 2 a.m. and go, I can't do this. I'm going to end it. And I'm like, all right, you're being dramatic. Stop it. I got to film in 4 hours. Can you please not do this now?
Yeah.
Can you wait? Inside of You is brought to you by Masterclass. Boy, do I love this. This is amazing. This is a gift. If you're looking for a gift for the holidays, This is one that lasts a lifetime. You just can't do better than Masterclass. Look at some of this. Don't give your loved ones something they want. Give them something they want to be. With Masterclass, they can finally become a better cook, writer, entrepreneur, or artist that they've always wanted. That's the gift of Masterclass.
With Masterclass, your loved ones can learn from the best to become their best.
Masterclass is the only streaming platform where you can learn and grow with over 200 plus of the world's best. That's why Wirecutter calls it an invaluable gift.
Gift unlimited learning. Learn from any Masterclass instructor anywhere on a smartphone, computer, smart TV, or even in audio mode.
Help them use improv to overcome fears with Amy Poehler. Craft a stand-up set with Judd Apatow. Or turn passion into achievements with cultural icon Martha Stewart.
And the classes really make a difference.
I love this. I think it's absolutely one of the most genius things. I wish they'd call me so I could be one of those celebrities that kind of demonstrates something that people can purchase to, because I think that's brilliant. I want to go to Judd Apatow and do a stand-up set. I want to. You could do anything. Imagine being in school and you have these instructors who haven't done anything and they're teaching you like, this is how you become successful. But now you can actually hear it from the people who are successful. That's Masterclass, and that is genius.
88% of members feel that Masterclass made a positive impact on their lives.
Every new membership comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Give your loved ones a year of learning with Masterclass. Masterclass always has great offerings during the holidays, sometimes up to as much as 50% off. Head over to masterclass.com/inside for the current offer. That's up to 50% off at masterclass.com/inside. Masterclass.com/inside. Yeah, it's got to be tough, and it's cool that you eventually thought, hey, maybe, and obviously it's not your fault. It's inadvertently done by, you going after your dreams and your mom helping you succeed and all that. But it affected everybody else behind you. And it wasn't until one day you wake up and go, wait a minute, I left right when she got to, and then she lived with the grandparents in Jersey. And then, are you still close with both your parents? Are they still with us?
Yeah, I actually just spent the whole last week with my mom. She came. I was doing an event for Ford in West Virginia, so I flew in with my son because we haven't seen her in about a year, and she came down to West Virginia and spent the week with us, and it was really nice. I would say my mom and I are really close. Like, we don't talk every day, but we talk enough to know what's going on in each other's lives, like completely. I would say up until maybe 2 or 3 years ago, I was really close with my dad. And if I'm 100% honest, I don't know. We've definitely lost touch at this point. I remember when my grandpa, my dad's father, passed away. And I remember my dad being really sad that he wasn't closer with his dad as he got older. And I didn't really fully understand that, if that makes sense. Like, I didn't understand why they weren't close, or, how that separation happens. Because at that time, my dad and I were really close. And when my son was born, March of 2021, I realized that it shouldn't be an effort on my part to have my dad or family members involved in my kid's life.
Or your life in general.
Yeah, or my life in general. So, like, man, maybe I'm saying too much. My dad will get mad at me if I don't call my stepmom and say happy birthday, who I never lived with. They got married when I was 23. You know what I mean? Like, I lived in Arizona.
There's no relationship there.
I like her. She's an amazing woman, super sweet. But like, I don't remember my wife's birthday sometimes. I'm kidding. I'm not that bad. But like, he'll get mad at me for that. But then my son's birthday, his only grandson, goes by, and they're the only person we don't hear from. You know what I mean? And it just taught me that, like, I shouldn't have to work hard for like a relationship like that. And
you're right.
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe
I think a lot of people can relate to that. It's a lot of work emotionally. It's draining.
Yeah.
When you're having to do, it feels, I don't know how to explain it. It's tough. It's just tough.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I feel we're very different people as well. Like, sometimes I go like, how did I come from you? You know what I mean? Like just our
I
personalities,
feel
the
the
things that we like,
same way. Same way.
you know, like everything. And, you know, it's a weird thought, I think, being a father now, because I look at my son and he's my world, like my world.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine there being a few hours that go by, no matter how old he is, where I don't really know what he's doing. Like we're going to be buddies. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's weird. You know, I start thinking of like, what was my relationship with my dad when I was a kid? I know he worked a lot, you know, I know he was very involved with like my sports and all that kind of stuff, but man, I don't want him to hate me for saying this, but like, I try to think of the way I am with my son, the way I hug him and kiss, you know, and snuggle
Yeah.
with him and play with him and all that kind of stuff. I go, I asked my mom, I go, did dad do that with me? I don't know. Like, I don't know if he did. Like, I know when I talked to my grandpa, who's 97, I just saw him last week too. He's 97 years old, right? He's never changed a diaper, right? Though in those days, the men didn't have anything to do with the kids. They worked.
Right.
And that's how he was, right? And maybe it's just like generationally, like we are more involved in our children's lives as now. I don't know. But I think back and I go, I remember having good times with him, but I also remember like he was the person to discipline me. You know what I mean? Like I knew if dad was home and I did something bad, like I was in trouble.
Dude,
you know what I
I'm
mean?
not kidding you. This is the first time I've interviewed in over 350 people I've interviewed that I'm looking at someone and it's like I'm talking to myself. It's
Nice.
unbelievable how everything you're saying resonates with me. And I do the same thing where I look back and like you're saying, like, I don't want him to hate me when he watches this, but I think like maybe if he does watch it, which he probably won't even watch, he won't even know where to go to see it or whatever. But if he watches it, maybe he'll go, wow, you know, my son does love me and he wanted more of a relationship and maybe I haven't done enough and maybe I could, who knows? At least he'll know instead of like, you know, because you could tell that you love your father. You just like, you're not close. You're two different people and there has to be more of an effort for it to work.
Yeah. I mean, I will say and admit that probably my biggest fault as a human is I'm really bad at communication. I am. I mean, we've texted a bunch of
Yeah. Well, no,
You
but
know,
yeah.
But I mean, like so not just with my dad, but I always go, oh, you know, I've got to do these things. This person texts me, I'm going to call them back or they called me or whatever. And then a day goes by, a week goes by, and I look back and I go, dang, I forgot. You know what I mean? And I want to be better at that. So I do put a little pressure on myself, but at the same time, I say that and I go, they're not reaching out to me either. Right. So like I'm not missing calls from my dad and not calling back. I just, you know, we just made the big announcement that I'm racing full time next year, all that. I heard from everybody. I didn't hear from my dad. You know what I mean? I don't even know if he knows.
And you know what? In short, I think it's that you just want some sort of acknowledgement, just some sort of like you're hurt.
Yeah.
I think that's what happens. I'm a little hurt. I there's a lot of things that I do in my life, and it's just like, you know, you want your dad to be like, I'm proud of you on this. I just, you know, I didn't hear those things as a kid. I didn't hear, you know, and again, it's like maybe generational. I always say to myself, like, would I hang out with my parents if they were my age? And the answer is no. The answer is fuck no. I would never. And you might say yes with your mother, but I just would not hang out with my parents. I have nothing in common with them. I just wouldn't.
It's a wild thought, like, you know, my son, he's 3.5. You're starting to see like personality traits that like resemble me, resemble his mom, you know, all that kind of stuff. Like he's ours, but you also realize he has his own personality. He has his own things that he likes, doesn't like, things that I like to eat. You know, and it's a weird thought that like they really, like we are all our own people, right? So it doesn't mean that you are going to be close with your family members or, you know.
No. And
I'm close. It's weird. Like even my sister just came to my race this weekend. I haven't seen her in a year as well. We don't talk often on the phone, but when we see each other, as if we never were separated. Like we're close in that sense. We just, you know, we don't see each other that often. She just moved to West Palm Beach. I live in Arizona.
And it's like you just pick it up. You pick up right where you left
Oh,
off.
immediately. It's
See,
not,
that's
there's
so
no like
cool.
awkward. It's as if we just saw each other every day for the last 20 years. You know, I do wish I was a little closer with her, just, you know, 'cause she has now 10-year-old twin daughters, so my nieces, and I wish we lived closer because I think we would spend a lot of time together.
Yeah.
You know, but I basically, since I was 16 years old, I kind of lived on my own, and I was the only one out here essentially. So I guess I'm just kind of used to doing my thing, and I don't know, maybe I need to be better at allotting more time for my family.
I just think that, you know, we're adults and I don't hold grudges. I love my father. I love my mother. They did the best they could. That's it. The relationship we have is, I'm not going to force a relationship. I'm not going to, be the one that's always trying. My dad texts me. I text him back. I text him. He doesn't always text me back. But, I love him. If something happened to him, God forbid, I'd be miserable and so I think it's just like sometimes you have to just accept that, hey, I have my friends who are I couldn't live without them. They're my family. And in many, many ways, they're there for me more than my family actually is. And so that's just the way it's been. And I've been since I left college, I've been on my own and doing my thing, and nobody's helped me, and nobody's like taught me off a ledge, and no one's asked me how I'm doing. And I've gone through depression, and I've gone through a lot of surgeries and things like that. And so, I was going to ask you that. Have you gone through stages of anxiety or depression where you're just like, I don't know what I'm doing. I have to talk to someone. My mind's not right.
Yeah. I mean, I how do I put this? I've definitely gone through a lot of times, obviously, since the show ended. I've tried a lot of different things. I raced cars from 2004 to 2009, stopped for a long time. I joined a band, toured all over, had some businesses. Yeah. Drummer. Yep. I've done a lot of things, but I always questioned if I was making the right choice, and it made me super anxious. Or like, I've always been in businesses where you don't really have control of what's going to happen next.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's not my choice to get put on a TV show again, or to do a movie, or to even with a band, or any of the things I've done. It's always kind of been like these not 100% secure careers, but I've definitely gone through very, very low points. I don't usually talk about it.
Sure.
Like I've never really let that side out. I've gotten, I think, pretty good at, I can always make everything seem great.
Me
too.
What I mean? And everything's just great. It's like the clown at a party. You're like, hey, everybody. And you go home, you're like, oh, fuck.
Yeah, it's easy to, maybe I'm saying, I don't know why I always do this. Maybe I'm saying too much. My wife always tells me, she's like, nobody knows the real you. And I don't know sometimes I don't know how to take that, because I'm like, she's like, I see how you are in front of everybody else. And she goes, it's the best version of you. But she's like, but you don't let people into when you are down, when you are angry, when you are upset. And she's like, so like, everyone thinks that I'm like the happiest person in the world, and I've got this incredible life. And I do. I'm very, very lucky and fortunate. But man, I have gone through my struggles 100%. I definitely had, even recently, or not recently, I've accomplished a lot in my life, because on paper, like you can physically see that I've done a lot of things, and I'm proud of it. But I also have this weird feeling that I've done nothing.
Me too.
Like that I've almost been a failure in everything I've done.
This is crazy talking to you. This is crazy.
It's the drive. That's what the drive is, I think, to keep me fighting,
motivated,
and going. And because realistically, I'm in a great position to where I don't really have to do anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I cannot sit still. Like I have to.
Who are you trying to prove something to? Is it something that like for me, for a while I wanted to prove to the world that I was worthy, and then I got on a really successful show, and I was like, okay, I made it. People think I'm decent, and this is good. but then it wasn't enough. And it was like, finally, I was like, what am I doing all of this for? And I think that you are, when you do your racing, it's like just that alone is something that's a passion that you love, that you said, that's amazing that you were able to do that. And that shows that you are proving to yourself that you can do something, but also do something for you. And now that I'm older, I just want to do things for me, things that make me happy, things that I'm excited about. And like, that takes a long time. So, it's not like you get it when you're after the show, you're like, oh, I did this and this is my decision. I feel everybody goes through this. And I think it's cool that you're saying it, because it makes sense to me, especially, and a lot of people, but you get one, at some point you have to go, I'm done proving myself to anybody. I'm just going to be me. And if it's miserable sometimes, and if it's happy sometimes, and if it's a pain in the ass sometimes, it's whatever, I'll try to be better. But like, you got to accept me for me.
Yeah. My wife also says that too. She asked me, she's like, where does the drive and the desire come from, or what is it? And I don't 100% know. I know the racing, it's almost more of a challenge for me than for anybody, right?
Yeah.
I feel like when you're a child actor and you have success early, people want, or they only accept that you can be good at one thing, or they only accept you in that show when you were little or whatever. And not that I was trying to prove it to them, but like, there is a little motivation there to go, look, I just started NASCAR last year at 38 years old, 37 years old, right? I'm the oldest rookie in the history of NASCAR. And I've made it, I'm climbing the ladder, I'm doing it, but it feels good to like jump into something where people almost expect you to fail and prove them wrong. It does. What I mean? And the cool thing about being a race car driver, unlike being an actor, is it's not subjective, right? You can put in the best performance of your whole life that you think, like deep down, that you killed it. People see it and they're like, it was okay. And as a race car driver, people can say you don't belong or whatever, but then when you start beating everybody, there's only, so like there's that motivation of like, I want to do it for myself, and I want to be able to look back at my life and A, feel like I accomplished everything I ever imagined, but B, like I want to feel like I tried my best in it. I don't want to look back and go, man, I could have put in more effort. I could have tried harder. I could have spent more time preparing, or whatever. And I don't know, but it is definitely hard. I mean, even this racing thing, like, this is exactly where I want to be. It's exactly what I want in my life, but it is so hard on me personally, on my wife, my family. It's hard. But at the same time, like I know in the end, it's going to be worth the fight that it is.
How many races have you raced?
This weekend was my 25th oval race, which, to put that in perspective, probably the least amount of races a competitor I raced with might be on 1,000. You know what I mean? So like, I'm very behind as far as experience goes. But I use that as a motivator, to work harder, to play catch up. And
right. But I'm talking races, totally in your life, just races.
Okay. Races total in my life, maybe close to 100, which is still a very low number, but about 100.
But how do you get in? Like, how do you get to, like, you have to compete in a certain amount of races and being first, second, third, something like place, right, for them to consider you. You can't just, you're Frankie Muniz, you're getting in. You did this.
There's lots of forms of racing that anybody can get in and do. Like club racing, or you go to your local track,
but not
you can
NASCAR.
Bring your car. No, not NASCAR. But so I did the pro celebrity race in Long Beach. I don't know if you remember that. They used to do at the Long Beach Grand Prix. I did that in 2004, and they train you out at Willow Springs, like driver instructors, the whole nine. You spend, a few weekends out there, and they do a really good job of getting people who have never driven a race car ready to at least put on an entertaining show.
Didn't you win that?
I won that. So like winning that, I cannot explain to you the emotion that I felt crossing the finish line first, right? Because
You cried.
I literally, like, I'm about to tear up now thinking
love
about
it.
that moment. You know what I mean? But even at that point, like, it still didn't even register in my mind that like I could potentially be a race car driver. I was a celebrity who got to do the pro celebrity race, and I won that. You know what I mean? And I knew that I loved it, but how do you become a pro race car driver? That's like saying, like, how do you become an astronaut or something? Like, it's like, sure, people do it, but how? I don't know. Where do you even start?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Keep in mind that most race car drivers start when they're 5 or 6 years old.
Yeah, of course. And their dad was a race car driver or something. Their grandpa.
Yeah, someone got them involved in it, and they worked their way up.
Nobody in your family raced.
Nobody even watched it, except for, like, I would wake up. I remember Sunday mornings, I've always woken up at like 5 a.m. no matter what. Like, it doesn't matter what time I go to bed. Still to this day, like, I'm up at 5 a.m. And I remember I would turn on the TV and I would ask my mom, I would wake my mom up, or I'd try to be like, hey, can you make me food? She's like, no. And I'd go out and I'd watch the Formula One races. I'd watch the IndyCar races. I'd watch NASCAR. I just loved cars and racing, but as a fan, not thinking that I'd have a future in it. But I did that pro celebrity race, won that. And there was a team that just approached me and they're like, hey, come to Houston. We're going to be testing next week. We'll put you in the race car for fun. Like, you could just have a good time driving this. It was a former BMW car. I was like, okay, sure. I remember getting to the track and I'm sitting in the car and they're molding my seat. And I was trembling, petrified to drive this car. Because I was like, how did I get myself into this? I have no idea what I'm doing. And by the end of the day, I was faster than their signed driver. And they're like, we actually think that you could be pretty good at this. Like, did you ever think about it? I'm like, well, I'd love to, but I just didn't know how you do it. So they signed me that day to a 2-year development deal. And I raced in Formula BMW that year, 2006, and then moved up to the Champ Car Atlanta Championship, that's a huge step.
They pay you for this? Did they pay you for a development deal? Did they pay you?
So how racing works these days, I mean, it's different for everybody, but for the most part, well, I'll back up a little bit. In the 80s, 90s, even the early 2000s, the sponsors, the teams found the sponsors and found the money, or they were rich team owners, and they hired a driver to drive their race car. And then starting in the 2000s, you had a lot of kids who had really rich parents who started racing young and were really good. And they were like, hey, whatever team, I'll give you $20 million to sponsor your race car, but my son has to drive. My son gets to drive.
Oh,
and the team was like, okay. So it switched completely to where now I would say 95% of the deals are the driver has to find the sponsorship and they bring that money to the team to run the car. So back then they're like, look, we have some team sponsors for Formula BMW. Let's call it was $750,000 for the year. We have $500,000 worth of sponsorship. You need to find $250 to finish the season. So then I go and we shop it. We find partners and all that kind of stuff. And so that's how I make money as a race car driver these days. Like, sure, there's like little prize money bonuses and start money, but for the most part, you go, I signed a X dollar deal. The team gets half of it and I keep the other half, right? And that's how you make money as a driver. It's very, very different than how it used to be.
Right.
Like, obviously, you still have to. If there's 36 spots in the truck series, right? There's probably 200 drivers who have the funding and who are good enough to win in that series that don't get a ride, right? So the teams are getting approached by all these drivers saying, let me drive your car, let me drive your car. They want to, obviously the team wants to perform well because then that helps them continue to grow as a team, you know what I mean? So they're picking the best driver that, has.
This is an education.
Funding.
A few days ago it was announced that in 2025 you'd begin racing full time for Rheaume Brothers Racing. Is that right? Rheaume,
yeah.
Rheaume in the number 33 truck for NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series. Now, I mean, that's a huge thing, isn't it?
It is. I mean, I raced full time last year, but I raced in the ARCA Championship, the ARCA Menard Series, which to give a little background. So NASCAR owns 4 series, basically. ARCA, the Truck Series, Xfinity, and Cup. The 3 big NASCAR series, Trucks, Xfinity, and Cup, are like, that is the pinnacle of stock car racing on the planet. Doesn't get higher,
Wow.
And so, although this year I was part-time, I did a few truck races, I did a few Xfinity races, I did some ARCA races. To be full-time in the truck, to be actually competing for the championship, to be there every week, it's a big deal, to have that opportunity. And I'm gonna go with it and fully commit,
Full-time.
right? It is. I mean, we do 25 races next year just in the truck.
That's
so
a lot.
You're on the road. You're on the road a lot. And
I got to
when you're
come
not
see
at the
you.
track,
I got to come see
you're
you. Inside of You is brought to you by Shopify. Whether you have a big business or small business, I'm telling you, Shopify has got you covered. I love Shopify. I've been using it for 5-6 years now for both podcasts. And when I want to sell items, they make it so simple. I cannot even tell you. It's a page where you say add product and you add a t-shirt or a mug or whatever you're selling. And then you put a description. This is a cool new gift for the holidays. Whatever. You put the price, you add it, boom, you're done. You can see which products are doing really well, which aren't, so you know what to buy, to stock up. You can compare from this month to last year, see how you're doing. It's truly the easiest platform to use.
Nobody does selling better than Shopify, home of the #1 checkout on the planet.
And the not-so-secret secret with Shop Pay that boosts conversions up to 50%.
Meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going.
So if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling on the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Businesses that sell more sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout we use with Shopify. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/inside, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/inside to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/inside. Inside of You is brought to you by Nutrafol. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist-recommended hair growth supplement brand trusted by over 1 million people. See thicker, stronger, faster-growing hair with less shedding in just 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol. What I love about Nutrafol, not only are they the #1 dermatologist-recommended hair growth supplement brand, but what's even stronger is that friends, people that I actually know use it, and they're seeing results. And I'm seeing it. Like, I'm actually seeing it firsthand. I have a friend who's been balding, and they use Nutrafol, and they've been using it for a while, and I forgot about it. I go, wait a minute, aren't you kind of losing your hair? What's going on?
Mm-hmm.
So it does work. It's obvious that it works, and it's just a matter of people, wanting to use it, trying it out.
Thinning hair is different for men and women, so a one-size-fits-all approach to hair growth doesn't cut it. Nutrafol has multiple formulas for men and women that are tailored to different life stages, such as postpartum or menopause, and lifestyle factors, such as plant-based lifestyle, so you can get just what you need.
Physician formulated with 100% drug-free ingredients. Nutrafol helps support hair growth from within by targeting possible key root causes of thinning, stress, hormones, aging, nutrition, lifestyle, and metabolism through whole body wellness.
While many supplements rely solely on ingredient studies, Nutrafol clinically tests final formulations to ensure their efficacy.
With a Nutrafol subscription, getting help building a hair growth routine is simple. Purchase online, no prescription required. Automated deliveries and free shipping keep you on track. Plus, you can save up to 20%. You'll have access to free naturopathic doctor consults, and a Headspace membership is included. Get results you can run your fingers through. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com and enter the promo code INSIDE.
Find out why over 4,500 professionals and stylists recommend Nutrafol for healthier hair. Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code INSIDE.
That's Nutrafol.com, promo code INSIDE. Jimmy Johnson, I worked with him, and he got me into the pit twice and I watched him race, and he actually won one
Yeah.
of them, and it was just
Nice.
it's bonkers. It's like the energy
Yeah.
at those places is unlike anything you've ever been to. It's just
Yep.
and people are screaming, and like it's just like go change the show, and they're just the
Yeah.
crew and it's insane. I
I love
this.
bringing people for the first time to a racetrack, because even if they're not a race fan, when you are there and you hear it and you smell it and you're in that environment, it makes you become a fan, I think, immediately, especially when you have someone to root for, right? If you just, even me as a huge race fan, if I just watch racing on TV and I don't know any of the drivers, not that it's boring, but it's hard to, when you don't have a horse in the race, you're kind of like, who cares?
Yep.
But so when you know someone, you can see, and if you're on the radio listening in, and the ups and the downs and the struggles and the high points and the low points of racing, it's almost like a soap opera. You know what I mean? Like
it really
it's
is.
like a drama. You know what I mean? And I think people like that.
Not on a down point, you drove the pace car at Daytona when you met Dale Earnhardt, and you were there and saw the crash, right? I mean, that was devastating. Did that affect you, or is that something you see a lot, or you think about, or when you drive, or you kind of don't, you gotta block that shit out?
At that point in 2001, I wasn't racing yet, right? I was 16 years old. Malcolm had premiered the year prior,
Right.
or 15 years old. And I was just so thrilled to be at the race. And Dale Earnhardt came up to me. I was in the driver's meeting, and he goes, I just got to say, thank you so much. Your show has brought me and my daughter so much closer together.
Oh, man.
And, enjoy it. You never know when it's going to end. Like, he said that, literally.
What?
He said that to me. And so I saw him there. He signed my jacket that I was wearing. And as I was going to the pace car, he was on the grid about to get in his race car, and he said, hey again. And, like, once again, like, love your show. So essentially, minus his crew chief, I was essentially the last person to talk to Dale Earnhardt the day he died.
Unbelievable.
Absolutely devastating when I found out what happened, when the news came out and it broke. Like, I just couldn't imagine that. I just talked to him. I was just with him, and now being a race car driver, I know what it's like before a race. I know what goes on in a driver's mind. I know, not that you feel invincible, because there's a danger aspect, but like when you get in your car to go to the grocery store, you get in your car and you drive to the grocery store.
You don't think about it.
That's how I feel when I get in the race car. You know what I mean? Like I feel like, I'll see my wife in a minute. I'm
going to go win. I want to win.
I want to win. You're just so focused on the task at hand that you don't think about the danger aspect. But I do remember last year I was racing. My debut in ARCA was at Daytona. So my first big race is at Daytona.
Wow.
And I'm going around the track, and every time I'd go into turn 4, which is where the crash happened, I would look at the wall. And it's a weird thought of thinking, like, what I'm seeing literally out of my view right now is the last thing he saw. And like that, it was over.
Jesus.
And that did affect me, but you can't let it scare you or intimidate you, if that makes any sense.
That's profound.
But there is a huge part of me. Like I said, I understand that it's a very, very dangerous sport. I would hate for something to happen for my family, but that's in that same sense. Like, I love it more than anything I've ever done.
Are you pretty fearless?
And in life, or
in racing?
In the race car?
Both.
In racing, I feel like I'm pretty fearless, right? I don't want to get hurt. Nobody wants to get hurt, but I don't let it slow me down, right? You gotta make the move when you gotta make the move. You gotta take the risk. Otherwise you're just getting passed. You're just slow. So you've got to be a little bit fearless to do it. The funny thing is, like, outside of a race car, I'm not a adrenaline junkie at all. I used to drive motorcycles. I sold them. I had no desire anymore. It wasn't fun for me. I've never been skydiving. I've never been bungee jumping. I don't like rock climbing. Like, I don't do any of the things that people are like, oh, you must do all this crazy stuff. I'm like, nah, I don't even like to run anymore because I'm going to pull a muscle. You know what I mean?
You're like me. That's amazing. I love it. We'll talk about Malcolm for a minute, but like, do you were you shocked? When did you know that this was a huge show? What moment do you remember going, oh shit?
To be honest, I would say before the show premiered, we were still living in New York City at the time because we had only gone to LA to film basically the pilot, or we then did 13 episodes before the show actually premiered. So my mom and I went back to New York, New Jersey, and we're going into the city, still doing auditions, still doing stuff. And there were billboards everywhere for it. And I remember being on the subway and everyone was staring at me. And I remember going to my mom, like, Mom, why is everyone staring at me? And finally someone came up and they go, you're going to be on that show. I saw the advertisement. I saw the poster. I saw the thing. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. People know before it's even come out. That's awesome. I remember the show premiered and 21 million people tuned in to the first episode.
And then, and then 26 million the next week.
Yeah, or like they re-aired it on Wednesday, like on a whim. Like, whoa, we didn't know it was going to be so big. They re-aired it on a Wednesday. And yeah, like 26 million people tuned in. And at that moment, you go, oh my God, people loved it. But then obviously you still don't know what's going to happen, right? Are people going to continue to watch or whatever? And it's just a pretty wild thing. I mean, you know the process, right? Of auditioning, maybe getting a pilot, being so thrilled to get the pilot, right? And you're going to go in and you do a good job. And you know that, back in the day of the 200 pilots made, 7 or 10 get picked up.
Oh, man.
And of that, maybe 2 make it as a show. So when you get the call that the show got picked up, you're literally doing somersaults. So excited. But even at that point, you have no idea if anyone's even going to see it. So you film some episodes and you pray and you hope that people are going to watch it and like it. And when that happens, like, it's like every step of the way is like this huge win. Or for other people, it's the opposite, right? It could be, you think everyone's going to love it and no one watches it. And it's a huge upset.
Yeah.
As an actor,
Yeah. No, absolutely. But that's crazy. It's just got to be, and you're a kid. It's like, in a lot of ways, do you feel like in a lot of ways that you really didn't have a chance to grow up, to have a normal childhood? Do you feel like, no, I had a pretty good childhood and I wouldn't trade it for the world?
I only know what it's like to be me, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what my life would have been if I wasn't an actor. Like, I sometimes think of that, like, where would I be? What would I have done as a career? I remember being a kid and people always being like, oh, but aren't you sad that like you didn't get to go to prom? And I'm like,
I didn't go to prom because I was a nerd.
I didn't go to prom, but I've been hanging out at the Playboy Mansion. I didn't go to prom, but
you're right.
I was at the Academy Awards,
I was nominated for a Golden Globe, man. What up?
So, I mean, I always consider myself pretty lucky, the things I got to do. I never looked at it like as a negative. But I do know that a lot of child actors don't have the same kind of
outcome or feelings.
What's the word? You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I know that it's a pretty ugly business for a lot of people,
Yeah.
I can honestly say, and it's something that I was even just talking to my mom about this last week when I was with her, obviously you hear a lot of the stories of the negative things that happen in Hollywood. And there was even the documentary about the Nickelodeon kids with the pedophilia thing.
Unbelievable.
And I'm literally in that documentary like 6 times, like, because I was working on those shows as like a guest host or whatever and all this kind of stuff. And like, I never saw it. And
because you were a guest star, you probably just came on for, right?
Yeah. But you know what I mean? Like, but I was in that world.
You were in that world and you're like, thank God you didn't see it.
Yeah. But I also think about it and I go, how did it not happen? Or, you know what I mean? Like, because I worked from when I was 8 until 21 and on tons of different projects with tons of different people. And, I'm not quite sure. I was always very strong-willed in the sense that I was never afraid to speak up if something was wrong or bad or weird. Or I feel like when a lot of child actors get in, the parents are so eager for them to find success and do whatever you're told. No, don't ruffle any feathers. Just, be good on set and do this. And because they think that, or they're told, I mean, I was literally told you're replaceable. You know what I mean? Like, we were told we'll find someone else. But my response was, do it. You know what I mean? Like, go ahead. you can't make an uncomfortable situation better by saying you're going to get rid of me. Like, fine, do it. That's okay. I don't know. Maybe I'm going in a weird
No, I
circle
know what you're
here,
saying.
but
You're just saying that you weren't privy to it. You just, with all that craziness that happens to a lot of child actors, that for some reason it didn't happen to you, and you are very fortunate.
I mean, and so many of the actors that I worked with, like, have had, difficult that transitions from child actor to adult or whatever's going on in their lives. And I don't know what it is about the business. One thing that I've thought of, I'm 39 years old. I'm about to turn 39 years old. I've never drank in my life. Never had a sip of alcohol. I've never touched a drug. I've never done anything, like literally nothing. And I was around it all the time as a kid. I didn't do it. I just didn't want to.
Good for you.
I stuck it in my head, and it just kind of stuck forever. But I don't know. I think when you have success as a young person, right? All of a sudden your life changes to where everyone is always telling you how amazing you are, or they're telling you how much they love you, or you have all that success. Eventually it goes away. It doesn't matter who you are. Eventually it slows down.
Yes.
Eventually it stops. And if some people don't want to accept that, right? They don't want to accept the fact, like, they're not here anymore, right? The phone's not ringing anymore.
Yeah.
The people aren't coming up to them as much anymore, and it affects them. And I feel like it could lead to a downward spiral, because you're looking for something to fill that void of having.
And you don't have the love, the real substance. You didn't get it. You didn't have it as a child, or you didn't have it. If you don't have those things, I always say it, in your developmental stages, and you don't have a lot of support and all these things, that stuff can just crush you, because that's all you know as that validation is everything. And then it goes away and you have nothing.
Yeah. And it's gotta be so hard if you do think about it from that perspective, right? Like, I've known a lot of actors that were on big shows and had success as kids, and then, like, I saw them, and there's nothing against it, but, like, they were working in the mall at a clothing store. You know what I mean? And it would be hard if people then do recognize you and they expect something different than they're seeing or whatever. And I get it even now. I get it now. I was very fortunate, had lots of success as an actor. I did other things. I did the racing, and I see people write, like, oh, he failed as an actor, so now he's trying racing or whatever.
How did you fail as an actor? You were on the most successful show ever.
Okay, like, sure, but I did pretty good, Like,
yeah, that's why I never. Like, when is it good enough? Like, it's like, I always say that. It's like, I worked a lot, and people say, oh, what does he do now? It's always, what are you doing now? What is he doing next? Oh, he's done. He failed. It's like, are you fucking crazy?
I know.
I had more success than a lot of people, and I'm very grateful and proud. But like, I'm to say that I haven't done anything, or I'm like, it's just like, did you watch TV for 7 years? Did you turn on the tube? Let me ask you this. I know you probably get always asked this, but honestly, gun to your head, when you're working with Bryan Cranston, did you think this guy's going to be a big star? I mean, he's already in his 40s or whatever. Did you think there's something he's so talented that Breaking Bad's going to happen? And were you shocked when you saw it?
Two things I'll say. When anyone ever asks what it was like to work with him, I always say he was the most incredible person, because he showed up every day to set and gave it 150%. He was so nice to everybody, and you never, ever, ever saw him wanting to leave or not wanting to, like, tired, or like, he took advantage of that opportunity and he did his best work. So I've always used that as an inspiration. Like, I want what I say about Bryan, of how he was to work with, I want people to say that about me. You know what I mean? So when I have an opportunity, I commit myself to it fully, and I try to make everyone around me have a great time and, be a great experience for everybody. That said, I watched Malcolm in the Middle for the first time, basically 10 years after it ended, maybe 2016, 2017. My wife had never seen it. And I hadn't really seen the episodes either, right? Because I didn't turn it on when it was on, like, you film it and And maybe I'd seen a few of it, but we watched all 151 episodes. And
Wow.
my perspective of what this show was completely changed. Like what the show that I thought we made compared to what actually was made, it was wild to me. Even characters that I didn't necessarily like when we were filming were my favorite. Hal Brian was the show to me. Like he made the show so good because he was just hilarious and just an amazing character. The character of Reese. When we filmed the show, I hated Reese. Maybe because Malcolm had to hate Reese, but I hated him. But I watched the show and I go, the funniest parts of that whole show are Reese. You know what I mean?
That's
so like, it's a weird
cool,
thought.
man. That's cool.
Like to step back and watch as a viewer because I was so far removed from it that I don't remember what was going to happen.
I did the same thing. We have a Smallville rewatch podcast. I never watched the episodes, and now I'm watching, going, God, they're great. That's great. Oh, that
yeah,
it's
right.
great.
So I don't know. I think that it's pretty cool to have a look back now, and I know there's been a lot of talks, and there's been a lot of shows that have been remade. There's a lot of talks about potentially doing something.
Would you do it
with Malcolm? And I would love it just because I would love to work with everybody again with my newfound passion and everything that I feel now as a grown-up that I could bring to a project. I would love to work with everybody again in a new light.
All right, this is rapid fire. You answer these questions really fast and we're done.
Oh, I'm so bad at this because I talk too much.
That's all right. No, you can talk as much as you want. This is called Shit Talking with Frankie Muniz. And you can join patreon.com/inside of you and support the show. We need you. And you get to ask questions. Don G, would there be any role that you would be willing to come back to act for?
You're welcome. Just kind of brought it up. I would love to. I want to see where Malcolm and his family are. I just think it'd be so fun, 20 years later to see where everybody is. But that's what I would love to do again.
Who are Maddie S? Who are your role models growing up in the entertainment industry, and who are they now?
I hate to say the same answer just said, but Bryan Cranston. I started working with him when I was 11, 12 years old. He really became like a father figure to me. And then even still to this day, he's essentially like a Hollywood god at this point. You know what I mean? Like he's done incredible films, incredible shows, won tons of awards. Like he's literally it. And he still reaches out to me every couple of weeks, check in on me.
Are you serious?
Really cares about what I'm doing. Oh yeah. Like comes to the races. When my band was playing, came to shows. I mean, he's literally such an inspiration. And like I said, that's what I strive to be that for someone else in the future.
I met him at his charity event, and I just said, hey, because I was like, Sluther, I said, they were considering you for like the next Lex. And I was like, God, that would be awesome. I hope they do that. And he laughed.
Yeah.
He goes, yeah, I don't know. That was like, it was funny to see them going online and talking about it. But like, he was such a sweetheart, man. I was like, you know what it was? I was immediately comfortable with him. And that could tell you a lot about a person where you're like, everything was just sort of like, hey, how you doing? It was cool.
Yeah.
Niko P, since you're an avid Arizona Cardinals fan, he gets to ask this: Kyler Murray or Russell Wilson in his prime, who is a better QB?
I mean, I can't not say Kyler Murray because he is our quarterback right now, and I want him to be successful. And he's been playing pretty good lately. But obviously, Russell Wilson had insane amount of success when he was with the Seahawks, and I don't know. I'd probably have to go with Russell Wilson back in his heyday as the better QB.
Jeremy C, what's your favorite track to race?
Ooh, I'm gonna say Kansas Speedway. I don't know if anyone would agree with me, but it's super high speed, ultra smooth. You can run anywhere on the track. So you have cars 4 wide, at 200 miles an hour, hitting wheels. It is the most incredible place in the world.
Taylor R, favorite memory during Malcolm in the Middle?
Oh, favorite memory, honestly, was the last shot that we filmed. And only because I remember being sad that the show was ending, right? But also excited because I was ready for whatever the future was going to have to hold. And at that point, I knew I was going to go racing and all that. And it didn't really hit me during the last episode until the last shot they saved for me. It was a close-up of me for this crazy scene where we're all covered in this shit. I don't know how to explain it. And I'm mad at my parents because they made me turn down this $1 million job because they're like, no, you're going to go to college and you're going to struggle. You're going to struggle to pay the bills. You have to work 3, jobs, and you're going to do this, and you're going to learn what it's like to be a true middle class person, and you're going to be the president of the United States. And it's a super emotional scene. We've been filming it all day. And if you've ever been like covered in like fake blood or gunk, you're just ready to get out of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we're on the set. Sorry, this is a long story. But we're on the set and I look around and it's about to be my close up and there's 500 people there. It's all cast and crew who worked on the show over the 7 years. And they said action and it like, I could barely even speak. And I did one take and we never did one take. We did a lot of takes. We did a lot of stuff. But I did one take and the emotion was so intense. They were like, print it, check the gate. That's a wrap. And it was like the most emotional moment of my life because like that was my family for 7 years.
Oh,
like I was with them
man.
way more than I was with my family. And all of a sudden in an instant, it's over. So it's a good memory, but also like a sad memory, but definitely the craziest memory.
That's crazy, man. When you and your wife were watching all 100 and whatever episodes, on the last episode, when you watched it, did you remember that? Did you get a little emotional thinking back at all of it?
I did. I actually I cried during the last episode. Like I was sad that it was done. Like this is 10, 11 years after the show ended. You know what I mean? Because like I said, I got to watch it as a viewer and like remove myself from it. And I really loved it. So I'm grateful to have been a part of something that did have an impact on people's lives. You know what I mean? And people still to this day love yeah, it's a wild thought, and it also comes with like getting older. When you're younger and you're doing something like a show or you're doing whatever, it just becomes part of your life. It becomes normal, right? To where when I look back now and I go like, that's insane that I was a part of something like that.
Dude, I think
so
the same thing.
So.
Like watching Smallville for the first time, like I have such an appreciation now and I'm so much more grateful. And fans laugh because sometimes I shit on the show and go, oh, that was crap or that was it. But like, I'm very honest. But like overall, I'm like, hey man, you did something really cool. And if that's it, if that was it, then wow, that's enough.
Yeah.
And so that's what
I've always said too.
Yeah.
Because people always go like, are you afraid that like, less now because I obviously do other things and I'm a race car driver and all that, but they go, are you afraid that you're going to get, typecast as like Malcolm and I was like, look, if I'm remembered as any character, that's a tremendous compliment. You know what I mean? Like, sure, I want to do other things too. But if I only for the rest of my life that's all I got was Malcolm and I never did anything else, that's still pretty cool that I travel all over the world and people love Malcolm.
Well, it's also, you think, what's the converse? It's like, you're either remembered as this, which people loved, or you're not remembered at all. I'll take that memory. You know 100%. What I mean? So it's like, I think it's just, this is an awesome conversation. I'm so shocked that like we have so many parallels and like, just with a lot of things, like you didn't watch the show till later, 11 years after it's over, same sort of thing with me, your emotions, when you look back, doing new things, trying to, do what you love and what interests you and not what people think you should do or push you into do because it will make them a lot of money. And, the parents, I think that, it's obvious you have a lot of love for your family and, nothing's perfect and that's life. And so you do the best you can and you navigate the best you can. And I think you're doing a pretty you're driving, eye on the prize, you're doing well, my friend. You're doing very well.
I'm trying. I appreciate that. But yeah, I'm definitely keeping my eye on the prize, but it's not without its ups and downs for sure.
That's life.
What I mean? But
that's life.
Yeah, it is. Everyone's going through their own struggles. They have their own success, their own ups and downs. So, I like that, it's something that you talk about a lot on the podcast. You kind of get to know not the negative side, but like the true authentic things that people are going through, right? The celebrities that people watch all the time. And, from the outside, people's lives do look perfect. You know what I mean? And it's not always the case.
It's never.
But it's easy to be an outsider and say, how could you be mad? You've got this, you've got that, you did this, but everyone's got their own struggles.
Everyone's
and all that,
got
for
their
sure.
own shit. Do you have nicknames for each other, your team?
Not yet. I'm still new on the team. You know what I mean? The team manager, Amir, he's awesome. And the other day he said something. His age came up, and I think he's 24. I'm like, I could be your father, so I call him son, and he calls me dad.
Thanks, Dad.
Yeah.
This has been awesome, dude. I really appreciate you, and I'll let you know when it airs. And I'm telling you,
Perfect.
this went above and beyond. Like, it was you just open up, and like that's what people gravitate towards. It's hearing about your racing is cool, and your life and your success, but also hearing about like it isn't perfect. And I appreciate you for opening up and being awesome. And thank you, dude. And we'll be in touch. And I'm gonna come see
Thanks
your
for having
race.
me.
I'm coming to
glad
see
we got
your
to
race.
do it finally.
Yeah. Take
Thanks
care,
so
dude.
much.
Frankie, you're awesome. That was awesome. I loved it. In fact, I was like, I don't know how this is going to go. I don't know. We talk about car racing, but like it all translates into, for me, that you have to go with your gut on things that are your passions. If you love something, do it. And he does it. And the odds of him succeeding at this were minimal. And he's had a lot of success. And I just kudos to you, brother. I think it's really amazing. Thanks for listening today. We love you. We, of course, have to give our shout outs to our top tier. And if you didn't listen to the intro, listen to the intro. It's important. There's a lot of important information and things and blah, blah, blah. So rewind and listen to that about the stage that we're playing December 14th and the Smallville Cruise and, of course, the Fart Book and all that stuff. But right now, the top tier patrons, let's shout them out. Why don't you start, Ryan? You can go to patreon.com/inside of you to become a patron and give back to the show. We need you.
Nancy D, Little Lisa, Yukiko, Jill E, Brian H, Niko P, Rob L, Jason W, Sophie M, Raj C, Jennifer N, Stacy L, Jamal F, Janelle B, Mike,
Eldon Supremo, 99 more, Santiago M, Maddie S, Kendrick F, Belinda N, Dave Hole, Brad D, Ray Hadada, Tabitha T, Tom N, Talia M, Betsy D. Hi, Betsy. Are you doing all right? Tabitha, Talia, Betsy, Rhiannon, Michelle, are you okay? Jeremy C, Mr. M, Eugia, that's Eugene and Leah, The Salty Ham, Mel S, Eric H, Oracle, Amanda R,
William K, Kevin E, Jor L, Jammin J, Leanne J, Luna R, Mike F, Jules M, Jessica B, Breyer, Kaylee J, Charlene A, Marion Louise L, Romeo the band.
Frank B. What we go back and forth?
All right.
Frank B,
Jen T,
April R,
Randy S,
Claudia,
Rachel D,
Jen, Carolina Girl,
Stephanie Nevin, also known as Stefan,
Jenny B76,
Tina E,
and G Tracy,
Keith B,
Heather and Greg Grether,
Ellie K,
Elizabeth L,
Ben B, Jammin,
Pierre C,
Sultan of SWAT,
Ingrid C,
Christina S,
Brandon C,
Murphy C in it,
Mrs. Lex Luthor,
Dave T,
David L, and Dave Hall.
and Dave Hole.
We love you guys. Thanks for listening to the podcast from Michael Rosenbaum here in the Hollywood Hills. Appreciate you, my buddy.
I'm Ryan.
He's Ryan.
I'm here.
It's just Ryan, man.
That's just me. Ryan.
Ryan-tist.
Ryan-tist.
We love you, and we'll see you next week. Please be good to yourself. That's most important. Be good to yourself. I'll see you next week.